Hello everyone and welcome to today's video where we discuss the symptoms of a worn CV joint and CV boot and how to replace them. What is a CV axle boot and how does it work? A CV axle is a component of front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive vehicles. Also known as half shafts, these axles transfer power from the transmission or transaxle to the wheels. An individual axle is made up of a short, solid metal shaft with a special joint, the constant velocity joint, at each end. These joints allow for all of the up, down, in, and out movement of an independent suspension. What are the CV boot and CV joint? A CV boot is a protective cover that surrounds the constant velocity, CV, joint in a vehicle's drive shaft. It is made of a flexible rubber material that helps to protect the CV joint from dirt, debris, and other contaminants that could cause damage or premature wear. The CV joint is responsible for transferring power from the transmission to the wheels, and the CV boot helps to ensure that it remains lubricated and protected, which helps to prolong its lifespan. If the CV boot becomes damaged or worn, it can lead to a failure of the CV joint, which can be expensive to repair. Now we will see the top 5 noise symptoms with a worn CV shaft. 1. Popping or clicking noises when turning. This indicates a worn or damaged outer CV joint. To verify this condition, place the vehicle in reverse, crank the steering wheel to one side and drive the vehicle backward in a circle. Check the rearview mirror first. If the noise gets louder, it confirms the diagnosis and the need for a new replacement CV shaft assembly. 2. A clunk when accelerating, decelerating, or when putting the transaxle into drive. The noise comes from excessive play in the inner joint on FWD applications, either inner or outer joints in a RWD independent suspension, or from the driveshaft CV joints or U-joint in a RWD or AWD powertrain. To verify the condition, back the vehicle up, alternately accelerating and decelerating while in reverse. If the clunk or shudder is more pronounced, it confirms a bad inner joint. 3. A humming or growling noise. This can be due to inadequate lubrication in either the inner or outer CV joint caused by a damaged or split boot. However, this symptom is more often due to worn or damaged wheel bearings, a bad intermediate shaft bearing on equal-length half-shaft transaxles, or worn shaft bearings within the transaxle. 4. A shudder or vibration when accelerating. This may be caused by play in the inboard or outboard joints, but the most likely cause is a worn inboard plunge joint. Similar vibrations can also be caused by a bad intermediate shaft bearing on transaxles with equal-length half-shafts, or by bad motor mounts on FWD vehicles with transverse-mounted engines. 5. A vibration that increases with speed. Note, this symptom is rarely caused by a failing CV joint. An out-of-balance tire or wheel, an out-of-round tire or wheel, or a bent rim are the more likely causes. CV joint failure prevention. Check for grease leaks at the CV joint, especially on the external CV boot. Also, make sure the CV joint clamps aren't cracked or loose. Visually examine your CV joints for wear, ripping, cracks, or other damage to the boot on a regular basis. Early detection of possible faults can save money on repairs and prevent more significant damage to the vehicle's driveshaft, wheels, or entire CV joint. How does a technician perform a CV axle boot replacement? CV axle boot replacement is not generally a simple procedure. The CV axle must first be removed from the vehicle. Because of this, and the fact that the cost of a new CV axle is not prohibitive, many technicians will recommend replacing the entire axle assembly rather than the boots. If one or more of the boots are to be replaced, a mechanic will lift and support your vehicle off of the ground and remove the wheel and tire. While the procedure for replacing a CV axle boot differs from one make and model to the other, the mechanic will need to do the following. Number 1. Remove the large nut retaining the CV axle and carefully loosen the axle inside the wheel hub. Number 2. Set back any wiring that is in the way. Number 3. Remove bolts to detach the steering knuckle from the strut assembly. Number 4. In some cases, remove the tire rod end and lower control arm/ball joint from the steering knuckle. Number 5. Work the outer end of the axle shaft out of the steering knuckle, number 6. Dislodge the CV axle from the transmission/transaxle or differential, may be bolted or retained with an internal clip, number 7. Remove the retainers that hold to boots to the axle, number 8. Disassemble the CV joints, number 9. Slide off the old boots and clean off the grease. If the damage is more extensive than a cracked boot and the CV joint is too worn to function, it will need to be replaced. CV joints are not reparable and must be replaced with a new part. Furthermore, because the CV joint is not offered separately, you may not be able to repair it alone and have to replace the entire CV joint or drive shaft. Number 10. Fill the new boots with grease, insert onto the axle, and fasten with new retainers, number 11. Reassemble the CV joints, number 12. Insert the inner end of the new axle shaft into the transmission/transaxle or differential, taking care to avoid damaging the part or the retainer, number 13. Insert the outer end of the shaft into the steering knuckle, number 14. Reinstall all other components and torque the fasteners, number 15. Check and top off the transmission fluid. Thank you for watching this video about bad CV joints, cracked CV boots and how to replace them. If you liked the video, please like it and leave a comment. If you are new to the channel, please click the subscribe button.